Hello, this is Grant, and welcome back to another episode of Dead Rising 2 Master Run. So, we're gonna go pick up the Shell Shock quest. If you recall, I talked about it in a couple of other episodes. So, he's like an old veteran of like, I'm not sure what, I guess. I don't know if what wars are canon to Dead Rising. Maybe he's just. I assume he's a veteran. I don't actually explicitly know that he is, but he has some old injury where he was shot and he's all gnarled and has killed people before. So maybe, I don't know, he could be a police officer or something. Point being, he is too proud to be helped by you. So he's going to normally limp his way through here. You'll notice there's a wheelchair right here that I would normally take. And I think I actually start the run here because this is my first time ever playing through with the leadership book. And that makes all survivors in my party much more combat ready. They're more likely to attack zombies, they won't get scared, and it makes them move faster. Particularly if they have some kind of ailment, like this guy does. It will range from either making it better to, in his case, I believe it completely removes it, so he's like any other survivor. Which is actually pretty cool, but I still set up the wheelchair anyway, because I don't actually see him moving on screen for a while. I think I realized a little bit later on, like, wait a minute, is he just normally moving, or is like, can he just like run short distances, or what? But he's actually, normally he has this like really slow limp, and you gotta take care of him. Unless you get the wheelchair, which, again, they're very nice to actually spawn you one. It almost, if I had to guess why that's there, it's not because, oh, they wanted you to, like, they thought they needed help, but rather it's something like, man, I came up with this awesome wheelchair mechanic, but no one ever uses it, so let's put it like immediately next to the thing. That way, obviously, someone will put two and two together. So, one thing that is a little annoying is to take the wheelchair with you, you have to pick it up. You can't just like push them through, unless it's a more of a seamless transition where you can just walk through. Which is also a thing. I wish they were a little bit more common. I'm told in 3 it's completely like seamless map that all the loading screens are hidden and such. So I think that's kind of cool. From a software development perspective, I'm curious, like, how do they hide them? Because usually, like on other games I played, I've commented before, like, this is here solely to hide a cutscene. Like, very obviously, usually, too, once you know to look for it. Like, I was playing Borderlands recently, and you had an NPC at escort. And sometimes the NPC would take an arbitrary, like, side path, like, just, like, circle back around for no real reason. And I definitely thought that it was prior to a cutscene, so I thought they're probably loading up the cutscene, and if it's not ready, he does that extra little thing just to make sure there's enough time. And I'm sure Dead Rising 3 has got to be full of stuff like that. Huh. I don't know, it's probably full of it, but on the other hand, knowing Dead Rising's, at least the series so far, is reputation when it comes to cutscenes or loading screens, it seems like that's not realistic. Like, to go from loads of really long cutscenes, long loading screens, to none, that seems a bold move. But I mean, if they figured it out, I mean, they are on new hardware. Like, I think it was just a question of them doing the best they can. Like, I think they chose that they wanted more zombies, more independent AI, farther draw distances, and that's what they wanted for the game. Because they wanted to sell, like, originally what sold the big Dead Rising 1, maybe not sold, but technically what made it really interesting was just how many characters were on screen at one given time, with like unique models and like different varying things, and they all had their own independent movements and interactions. That's what was really cool. In fact, Dead Rising got a lot of flack that it was the reason many Xboxes were overheating and red ringing. Because red ring is when like the Xbox got too hot and the solder for the CPU fell off. More or less. You only need a little bit to go wrong for the whole thing to not work. Well, the idea was that, well, this game's obviously pushing the limits so hard, it must be forcing the Xbox to run so hot that it was the cause. Plus, you had situations with like Dead Rising with like 7 Day Survivor, where people were playing for like 14 hours on one game. So I'm like, without saving. because you couldn't. So a freeze or a crash was definitely heavily criticized. So I think, but anyway, they wanted to keep up with that little, like that kind of penchant of lots of zombies on screen and all that. So I'm sure though when they came down to it, like, wow, now we have all this like awesome updated hardware. So it's like making Dead Rising 1 again for the first time with all the knowledge they had before. So, but yeah, I definitely feel like I wish they didn't do as much. Like, I don't really feel much need for them to render the zombies all the way at the end of the door there. Like, I'm just gonna go in here. It doesn't matter too much for me. Like, maybe just make some kind of shortcut around just to, I don't know, make loading screens better, whatnot. I don't know anything too technical. Like, for all I know, maybe the zombies are the easy part that they're rendering. Maybe it's like all the individual weapons that they gotta put together and something, or maybe it's just the fact that it takes the time to load up all the random zombie clothes and whatnot, not their locations or something. I don't know, but I would prefer a little bit smoother running game, just because that's what I prefer. But visually, I gotta say, it does work what they did. Like, I'm not a big fan of going that way, but visually it does look good. Like, the zombies definitely look better in this game. And, like, the horde, you actually have hordes of them. Whereas they're really sparse in 1. Although, I want to say in 1, it was mainly due to technical limits, but you could get hordes. Like, if you ever played Day 3, like Paradise Plaza, which is actually one of the smaller areas of the game, and they only put zombies in a very little, like, the narrow section, that thing gets packed on the end of the day. So I feel like maybe it wasn't just, maybe there was, like, other mechanical reasons why they didn't want to spawn as many zombies as they do in Dead Rising 2. So, I don't know. I talked about it with Borderlands, where one thing I wish was more of a thing was developer commentary. And it can be a couple different ways. Like, I think of it in comparison to movie developer commentary or director commentary, where obviously you just watch the movie with them talking over it. That's easy when it's 2 hours. But I don't think they could conceivably get like a high-level director to play through, say, all of Skyrim or something and commentate on it. Or even if they could, because it's such a huge project. But it would be cool, like, I did one of my, I don't know, favorite, but like, I really love this idea where that actually was done for Conker's Bad Fur Day. It's a N64 game. And since the developers didn't work for the company anymore, because the company, I believe, was dissolved when it was purchased by, I want to say Microsoft purchased Rare. And that they now own the rights to Banjo-Kazooie and Conker's and all that. Well, the developers of the time, years later, sat down and played the entire game and did commentary. And it was amazing. Like, they had some really, really cool insights I never thought of. Like, they commented about stuff like how they use, like, the onboard chip of the N64 or random little things that came up during development. It was really cool. So you have that playstyle, but that may not be feasible for all games. I think for Dead Rising it might be, just because it's a set amount. Plus, they could hopefully do stuff like, oh, yeah, they have their own separate build, so they can go run it on a $2,000 machine, so they don't have to worry about like cutscenes taking forever to load, because it's run all off of like SSD with amazing amounts of RAM and amazing graphics processor, because it's like their testing engine or something. So, but anyway, if that's not feasible for a game, it'd be cool to see something like what Valve does, where they'll just have, you can enter like a commentary mode, where it'll spawn these little speech bubbles around the game, and you can activate that, and it will sometimes like take your like control away from your player or your camera, and go draw attention to certain things, and they'll do audio and subtitle commentary on just like that one particular section, so it won't be like constant. I remember here, like, I thought I had it because he's got 1 health, and then he makes me eat my words with that stab. But sadly, I am too proud to drink my drink, I think. Oh no, I'm gonna be lame. I feel like, yeah, I haven't saved for a while. I do like trying to make it cool. Like, I always try to end it with, like, say, a drop kick. Where I could have just shot him the whole time, you know. But that's kind of boring. Anyway, I would love to see that kind of commentary for like this game. Like, so make a note at maybe for every psychopath fight, at least, I would assume. And then maybe a couple of the cooler little scoops otherwise. And that'd be really neat. Or talk about like, oh, we chose to do this instead of this. Or maybe they had some really cool ideas that just really didn't like flesh out very well, and they ended up taking them out of the game. So it'd be cool to have that background. And for all I know, that stuff may exist, but usually that only comes to light like right before a game comes out as part of its hype. Well, that sucks. Like particularly for like Dead Rising 1, I'm coming across like all this kind of like really old stuff I haven't seen before, but was there when the game came out, but isn't now. Like stuff like videos of them mocapping cutscenes. It's actually like it's really cool to see even now, but finding that stuff like there's no one central collection for it. Or like I think about stuff like different stuff like leading up to like I remember like when Halo 3 came out, there was like so many big things like commentary, like different trailers, commercials, stuff that even was like canon, and it just gets like lost. I just realized you can see I don't know if you saw that split frame, that second there. When I zoomed out from the sniper, I was like inside Chuck's head, and you could just see his eyes. It was like one single frame, but I just caught that. It freaked me out. But anyway, so we dealt with those snipers. I'll get away from this tangent of commentary. I really wish, as like someone who's in like software development and also enjoying the games and trying to learn, I would love to hear commentary. Like I always like watching developer commentary on big movies. Like for a long time when I was editing, I would listen to the Lord of the Rings developer commentary and director commentary, and it was really cool. Like I had thought about doing some like special effects because I really like being able to like, what's the best thing you can do with like extremely limited resources. And it's something where it's like when you're shooting a movie or any kind of like video, you only need to get it like this one little like aspect, like picture frame right. Everything else can be completely fucked, you know? Like for all you know, I'm like over here completely like naked. There's just like trash everywhere. But as long as this little video you're watching looks good, you'll never know the difference. I'm not though. I just recently moved out of my frat house after graduating, so now I have all this room and this entire like awesome table instead of I had everything like packed into a little like I don't know like 5x5 cube before, and that's what I would work in, and then I couldn't move like roll my chair anywhere without completely like tearing apart all my wires. So anyway, let's get back to the game. I never understood these guys. They are all, I guess, like quintuplets, I guess, because they're all completely identical. At least the other guys, like, they looked identical, but they're wearing, like, helmets and stuff, and gas masks. It was believable. These guys, I don't know what. Maybe they're all TK's brothers. I believe there's a lot of commentary I could make on it, but that is something I would like to avoid. But it is weird. Like, it seems like an oversight. Like, maybe they were going to make more models, and then they only ended with one, but they're like, let's just copy-paste it in. I don't know. The sniper rifle does make quick work of them. Faster than, say, the regular guys. I guess they're not wearing any bulletproof vests. They're just wearing these blue tuxes. And they also fade away after they die. That's a little weird. Headshots. But anyway, we're heading up here for a boss fight with TK, and more specifically his helicopter.
Not without me, Chuck. You're the best lead I've ever had.
That was quite an amazing face from Chuck right there. That just like stink eye he gave her. She really does just show up all the time. I don't know how she gets around. I wish there was a little bit more life to the game, like you saw people moving around, or maybe that it spawned every single survivor reasonably so, like in game. And if you knew where to find him, you could go get him earlier. Like maybe they are going to be moving from point A to point B, and you're supposed to meet him at point B, but if you find him on the way, same thing. And that doesn't have to be literally everyone. Like there's a lot of people like Europa, who was in hotel room or whatever the entire time, so that's fine. They don't have to be there. But it would be cool if you could just kind of encounter, or if there was other groups like Rebecca, who you don't need to save, but she's still kind of around, and you could run into her. Or maybe you'd find people randomly trying to get into the safe room, but they don't know you have to go way around. This was such a bold move by Chuck. That's full-on action hero. I don't think I would think that fast or even think to do it. Then again, if you've been living through this whole thing twice, I'm sure you're pretty much a man of action after that. So the way this boss fight works is there's this winch here. that the helicopter is hooked onto. When the light is green, you can hit a button. It's going to pull it down right here. And you have a brief period to throw things at it. You cannot shoot it. It will not do damage. And depending on how heavy it is, that's how much damage it will do. The best thing we have is these spotlights. These are extremely good. You'll notice me dodging. So I do not believe you can actually hurt the helicopter until it's winched down again. So I mainly just want to go collect these, making good use of the dodge roll. You'll notice the light is red, and when the light is red and you hit the button, it will interrupt anything the helicopter is doing. You'll notice we have some really good damage. You can throw stuff like cones, but they do terrible damage. The barricade's okay, but it's so like heavy, it's just not really feasible. If I did not have to carry these books, I would heavily recommend just going out and getting like 5 of the spotlights in the first little run, pulling it down, and you could probably just straight up kill it. I keep almost throwing my magazine. That would really kind of screw me over. We only need the Gatling magazines for the anti-up scoop, which I don't even know if it's required, or like quote unquote required for this run. So here I decide to brave it, since you get the helicopter gets interrupted whenever you do that. So I figured, hey, I'm gonna pull the winch, but I'm gonna use the time to collect a bunch of items and heal up. There's like a bunch of boxes around here that can kind of block bullets if you want to go out there, as well as you can find food in some of the luggages, like snacks. I believe there's some beers over by the elevator. But really, I'd say your best bet is to stay on top of it. Or, barring that, wait until the winch is green and then use your time to get ahead. Unfortunately, it seems like each hit does less damage. Like, say, every time you hit it, the damage gets cut in half. Because that first hit, you'll notice, every time I winch, does a lot of damage. That last one, not so much. So I think that's just to make the fight a little bit more realistic. You'll notice, like, there is no animation for hitting the winch button, so I can just roll into it and hit B and it'll instantly go in. But I think it's to prevent you from showing up with like 10 of those spotlights and then just, I don't know, taking it all down in one go. This is, I think, a really cool cutscene. So I'm getting a little distracted here. Some settings of the computer. But I think this is a cool looking little effect. And more importantly, the fact that you got TK. I think Rebecca Chang is supposed to be somewhat of a parody of Frank. Just like the annoying, like, always there with a camera. Always being intrusive. I am surprised the survivors, I mean, you might not see it, but aren't more like, let's get a bunch of money. Because even in, like, the safe house, there's just tons and tons of those machines. Honestly, you got nothing to do. Might as well just, like, break into them. Get some money out of the deal.
What's he doing here? Isn't he the host of that show?
Sullivan's interesting.
He started it. He's behind everything. He killed all these people and framed us.
I'll let this plot kind of come out.
Just so he could make a little bit more cash.
We've got enough to run with the story.
Well, I'll be. The three of you brought down this big shot. I'm impressed.
The story is going to be big, huge. It's award material.
He's out cold? We ought to make sure he stays that way.
Wait. We need to keep him alive.
Why? Capital punishment was made for a guy like this.
So some of Sullivan's comments have a little bit more behind him, like the fact that he wants TK to stay knocked out. That's a pretty big one. Or that he was going to be the first one to take the ship.
We'll do it your way.
And in a way, it's not unrealistic. I mean, he is staying here and is in charge. So the idea that he would watch TK is not unrealistic. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I assume most people have seen the way the game's going, or are pretty predictable. It's a predictable game. The point is not so much the story as it is the journey. We're going to wrap up here pretty soon, I think.
The rescue is coming in the morning. But Katie isn't going to be able to hold out that long, will she?
No. She's gonna need one last dose of Zombrex before...
Based off these, it seems that the game thinks that the only reason Chuck goes out is just to get Zombrex, although, like, realistically, like, you and I know, it's just to go play the game. Really, the Zombrex K thing is a pretty small undernote for the rest of the game. Like, it's there, it's a requirement, but it's no different than any other scoop you have where it's like, get back to the safe room at this point. And it's just like, I think, a way for them to deliver the story a little bit more eloquently, because they only can have so many reasons to bring you back to the safe house. And I felt like in one, every time you came to the safe house for a story, it was like stereotypical setup, stereotypical like misdirection, stereotypical explanation, and so there's this scoop where Sven wants some vodka or whiskey since he doesn't have any anesthetic or sterilizer. So at the time, so you can go get some over here. I thought maybe those boxes would have it, but these almost always do. So you can go get some right here. I get some right there. But actually, since recording this, you can usually get them just from the boxes immediately next to him. Now, he says he needs it for, like, sterilization, but when we give it to him, I don't know. The gameplay suggests otherwise. I keep picking these things up. He just takes it. He just downs it. Unfortunately, that was kind of off screen because I was going to eat that. But yeah, you can actually just get vodka from right here. And they make it really easy to get Zombrex as well. If you need Zombrex, there's only like 2 scoops you need, 2 or 3 you need to do. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more, check out one of the links below. Until next time, don't take your zombie safety for granted.